Good afternoon. Hi. Can't do anything with this hair.
You look nifty in your jacket.
Well, thank you. You know, it's funny. The last couple of years I've done this, I had this blue jacket. And I went back and looked at pictures in Mike's archive. And every year I wear that damn blue jacket. So I went and got myself a new jacket this year. Something, a little gray herringbone. Thank God for Amazon, right? I got it 2-day shipping. All right. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Dan Cox. And I am the Director of Broadcasting at WCWP Radio. Unfortunately, that appointment came less than 24 hours ago. Unfortunately, the university part ways with Pete. Pete was one of my students. He is a good friend, and I wish him well. I think he did an outstanding job during a very difficult time over the last 2 years with the renovation and everything that was happening. So I won't belabor that point. But I will say, for those of you in the room who probably stretch back as far as the 1960s through the 2000s, there's never a dull moment at WCWP, is there? So let's not make this a dull moment by me talking too much. What I'd like to do right now is to bring up my good friend Jeff Kroll, who's going to induct our first inductee. Jeff.
Then I'll sit down, turn around, come back for the second inductee, too. It's always nice to be here. I always enjoy this. This is for those, we have some people here who may not know the total history of the station. Station is coming up on 63 years old. It was formed in 1961. It was a campus-only radio station, only heard in the buildings around here. And those who ran it will tell you that it wasn't heard very well, even in the buildings. But that was the way. And then in 1965, coming up on 59 years now, the FM formed, the 88.1 that all of us who were connected with the station know so well. And we've had a great history in the place, and in 2012 it was decided that, maybe we should have a Hall of Fame. Maybe we should recognize those who excelled in their years here. When I say here, it's as if I'm standing in the station, but you know what I mean. Those who excelled here and then went on to careers, and even if their careers veered away from broadcasting, that they left a lasting mark at the station. So we wanted to honor those people. So we started with the founders of the station back in 2012 and worked our way up through the years. And I've always enjoyed these get-togethers. It's very much fun. We're getting to induct 3 new members here today. What I do want to first do is recognize Hall of Famers who are in attendance today. First of all, I believe she's watching on Zoom. Yes, she is. I see her name there, so I'm looking at the camera. Hi, Suzanne. Suzanne Langwell was and is the head of the committee for the Hall of Fame and helped all of the nominations and the vetting and the voting that arrived at the 3 new folks who were joining here today. So she unfortunately took ill this week and is watching from home, but I wanted to recognize her efforts for sure and hope that you understand she really wanted to be here today, mostly because she wanted to see the radio station later. But we thank Suzanne for her efforts, and hi again, looking right at the camera. And we have a few other Hall of Famers with us, as long as we're on with the ladies. The other lady here in attendance, those who know us know that for sure she is my better half. Pat Kroll is right over here. My longtime football sidekick. I met literally in the football booth for the first time way back, and we're still real good, close friends. Neil Marks, right over here. Dan Regan is over here. We say hi to Dan, joining us today. Come up from Atlanta, right? Very good, very good. And also, the guy who's filming this whole thing. He's recording. He's on the camera in the back. Go ahead, out in the front. Say hello. That's Mike Chimeri. Station historian. It's not an official event if Mike's not here recording it. So we do that. Mike, I went back to your old recordings. I went back to a couple of our old ceremonies to get back into the feel of this thing and realized that I am a classic radio guy. I have no camera presence whatsoever. I watched one of those old videos and realized never once did I look at the camera there or the Zoom camera. I never paid attention to the camera. I would look up and around and play with my water bottle or whatever. Classic radio person. So I'm going to try and look at the camera a little bit today. And of course, Dan Cox for all his help. And we had to put this together at the last minute, but it's together. And we're here today. And happy that that Dan is back in charge of WCWP. I ran around. Did you mention the tours afterwards? Okay.
I would talk about that later, but go ahead.
Okay. At the end, when we're finished here today, we invite everyone to come over to the radio station. The radio station is still in the same location that it has been since that building opened in 1965, the home of the FM, but it was totally gutted, and it is a brand new. Every studio is brand new. Everything in there is brand new inside the same brick shell that we had. So we invite you to come over and see that following today. You can take a nice leisurely walk across the great lawn, or you can get back in the car and drive around and park in the parking lot there. So that takes care of my introductions. They'll all tell you, Dan will tell you, I always had the gift of gab. I could talk all day
That's why you
if
should
needed.
host this every year, not me.
Yeah.
And I can second that.
And that's why they throw me on a game, because I could just talk all day. Anyway, I promise I won't. First up today, our first inductee is Joel Feltman. Joel transferred to Post. He didn't start out here at Post. He transferred from a school upstate that went out of business. And we razzed him about that continuously, that he helped drive a school completely out of business. But I have to tell you, as the years have gone on, that kind of loses some of its steam. I mean, our own Southampton campus here at LIU went defunct at one point, and they closed that up and told the students, get out, either transfer to Brookville or find a new school. And then many other colleges have closed up, unfortunately, around the country. You read more and more of it. Dowling, a big school here on Long Island, closed up in recent years. And sadly, many other individual campuses, but overall colleges have closed in the last many years. So I can't razz Joel about that. But he showed up here in the fall of 1972, and he immediately showed that he just wanted to do anything and everything, any department. He would do whatever, any hour, any day. One thing that all three of our inductees have in common, Joel, Phil, who we'll talk about in a little while, and Mike, is one thing you folks have in common that's not common today. There was no automation system in that station back then. Somebody had to go in there every day of the year, 365 days, New Year's Day, 4th of July, it didn't matter. Somebody had to go in and hit the buttons and turn the place on, and late at night, turn the place off. And so it was this dedication that a lot of folks back in those years showed us that they really wanted to be part of what we were doing at WCWP, and Joel certainly did. He lived on campus, which helped. Anyone who lived on campus had more access to the place just about any time we needed him. He could just come rolling on in. He'll tell you when he gets up here to speak all the different departments. He worked literally in every department you can work in at the station, became our jack of all trades. Those who are into sports know that a utility player is very, very valuable. Or in basketball, a sixth man is so valuable. He was our a value guy. Whatever we needed, he did it. Oh, we're shorthanded here, we plug Joel in. We need him here, we do that. He was carrying regular shifts in every department. And at a time when we were shorthanded, now when I talk about Phil in a little while, I'll explain a little more about why the station was so short-handed back in those years. We were beginning to come out of it as Joel was around, but we were very short-handed in staff, so we needed everybody to pitch in any way possible, and Joel was the guy. One of the things about Joel now is a lot of folks in our industry would turn around and go into careers. Mike, Dan, everybody went into, these careers. I did myself, at least for a limited time, before I got out. Joel did some radio work after he got out of school, and then veered into the entertainment industry. And from there, he also did some TV work behind the scenes. But everything he learned here got him all of those positions and on and on. You didn't have to go into radio in New York City to make yourself a mark in the industry. So I've always said that a Hall of Famer, and I'm proud to say that I have been a Hall of Famer for a number of years, a Hall of Famer knows who a Hall of Famer is. Joel Feltman is a Hall of Famer. And one of the things he and I are most proud of, he's one of there were 7 of us that started our homecoming weekends back in 1977. We did it on a lark. We were all working and decided it was more fun back in college than the strict formats we had to follow wherever we were working. That, if we could just go back to Post for a weekend, wouldn't that be a blast? And the art director at the time, Bill Moses, said, that's a wonderful idea. We'll get you guys together. So 7 of us did this weekend. Well, the thing exploded in a matter of a couple of years, and suddenly we were on for 3 full days, and we've had dozens of people would take part every year. And we got people from the very earliest, from the 1960s right up into the 2000s, would join us to be part of homecoming. We didn't even realize what we were starting at the time. Remember, we used to talk about that.
We used to lament how are we going to get out of this?
How are we going to get out of this mess that we created? So he's had a great history with the station. It's certainly just that he be a Hall of Famer, and so I would like to invite up Joel Feltman.
Hang out with me.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah.
We're hanging?
We're hanging. I do have some formal remarks, but I'm going to kind of divest for those in a little bit. First of all, thank you, Jeff, for these very kind words of introduction and induction. There is an ancient Chinese proverb that says, "May you live in interesting times." And considering what has transpired over the last 24 hours here when it comes to our beloved WCWP, I think this qualifies. One thing is pretty certain, though. WCWP is a phoenix. Over the nearly 63-year history, there have been a number of times when it seemed that the sky was falling, all was lost, and the future of WCWP was doomed. Station members of those eras were apoplectic. We can all remember that, with the LIU administration's apparent lack of concern and interest. But WCWP always rose from the ashes, over and over. And I believe we should all be confident that this current situation is another blip in our long, long history. And WCWP will continue to flourish and rise again. Now, on a little lighter note, it's kind of apropos about this interesting times and obstacles that are thrown in front of us. It seems to also apply to our trip to get up here. We live in Florida, and so interesting is a word and a half. We figured we would turn this into a little bit of a vacation. Now, not wanting to drive 900 plus miles on that wonderful scourge of I-95, I said to my wife, Michelle, let's take the auto train. It's what old people do. And so we did that. And that, you start to make a plan. And so that would get us into Virginia. We left Wednesday evening. We're supposed to get in at 10 o'clock in Virginia on Thursday morning. So we have our financial planners in Virginia. We said, what a great opportunity. We'll meet them. We'll see the offices and all that stuff. The partners will take us out to lunch. We'll get the whole treatment. After all, they are managing our considerable fortune. So, 12 o'clock, the train delayed 2 hours. So we get in at noon. Of the 268 cars aboard the auto train, ours was 15th from last. Now, so we're waiting there, and I've got these little air tags, you're all familiar with them. I'm seeing messages that Joel's luggage is 781 miles away. I'm flipping out, right? What could have possibly happened? They loaded us on in Sanford. What, somebody come on the train? No, we did have an overnight delay of 2 hours. Somebody sneak on the train, steal my luggage? I'm flipping out. Okay, so we finally get there. Our plans had been to meet with our people, and then 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we were going to take a nice trip to Annapolis, spend the evening, maybe walk up and downtown. Well, that quickly evaporated. All right, so we're going to stay in Virginia. Start Friday morning, not 20 minutes after we get on the road, thunk, 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 we pick up something in our tire, flat as a piece of paper. So we have roadside assistance, call them up, 2.5 hours, we'll get to you. So, heck with that, I'm changing the tire myself. We'll get on the donut, we'll then I'm all set to drive to New York on the donut. He gets me on the phone, he says, don't you even consider it.
Can't drive on the donut
Can't,
from Maryland to New York.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
So anyway, we get it fixed. We go to a tire place. They say, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. There's a little guy down the road, right? Express Tire. They deal in new tires, they repair, and they sell used tires as well. Okay, so we get there, they look at our tire, no can fix, no can fix. We buy a new tire, I guarantee you 5 minutes after we left that place, that tire was fixed and put on the slightly used display. So now this delays us enough so that now we're going to hit New York rush hour traffic at 5 o'clock on the GW Bridge. I noticed it said on the GPS 41 miles to our destination. Estimated time, 2.5 hours. And so finally, we're staying with welcome back.
Friday afternoon.
Right. Jeff and Pat are hosting us for these couple of days, and they're waiting on dinner. Don't worry, Pat says to Michelle, we'll have a large glass of wine. We'll be all set for you. Don't worry about it. Get here safe. So that actually speaks to all of this stuff. In any event, and on that note, I cannot begin to describe how deeply humbling it is for me to be included in this company of men and women who have been honored before me as recipients of induction into the WCWP Hall of Fame. And for me, while fame does not apply to me or my career as it does to the likes of a Hank Niemark or a Dan Reagan, Ted David, Fred Gadelli, Jim Cutler, Travis Demers, all who have made significant names for themselves in the industry, and many other on our rosters who have achieved great notoriety and, most importantly, singularity in their careers. This makes me even all the more supremely grateful to have this honor. I look around the room and I see dear friends, both from WCWP and my other family, who are here, and I'm reminded of so many glorious memories. Jeff talked about homecoming weekend. I had the distinct honor of doing the last 5 as coordinator before the Moser debacle in '89. But that was a tremendous labor of love. All of that original group of 7, we all took a couple of years. I wound up with 5 because nobody else wanted it, but that's okay. Happy to do it. And those memories are so much as a part of a student and many, many years after that. So much more of these lifetime friendships I am blessed with. And as a result, some of whom are here today, as I said, I'm reminded how important those friendships are and how much they are crucial, cherished, and treasured parts of my life. Michelle and I are only children, and her parents were only children, so there's no family. We don't have children of our own. We married late. The factory was closed, and that's correct. So that is why our friends and the concept of friendship is so, our friends are our family, and it has become such a vital part of our lives. Those of you who know me well are all too aware of my penchant for making reference to memorable quotes from movies and TVs to apply to life. One of my favorites is Star Trek. I've always said all I ever need to know about life I've learned from Star Trek. And so, for those of you who are familiar, Spock always said, "You are my friends. I have been and shall forever be yours." To my fellow inductees, my buddy Phil Lebowitz, a dear friend for more than 50 years. Where's the camera? Phil, I love you, buddy. He's so much a part of my history at WCWP. Phil took me as a complete sports ignoramus. I didn't know anything, right? Oh, yeah, I watched a baseball game from time to time. As a little kid, maybe I rooted for the Yankees, but I didn't know what I was doing. Jeff made me a quasi-Met fan because he said, this is a team you should really look at. And I remember, the 69, right?
What a mistake. What a mistake.
In any event, those of you who do sports, Dan, Mike, I think, sports as well. No? Okay.
Oh, well, yeah, no, I did, yeah.
Yeah, but guys like Fred, I have such great admiration for them because I sit there and watch important games. I remember I was up here in 2017. I think the Mets were in the series or something like that, one of the series. And I remember there was a play at second base, and it was a horrible call.
15.
15?
Yes, our shortstop got wiped out, and I went ballistic.
Oh,
my son went ballistic.
Oh my God!
You couldn't figure out why we were so apoplectic.
I'm calling the league
against the Dodgers,
right?
yes.
I'm calling the league. There's got to be some form of retribution of this.
Chase Utley.
Okay. And I said to myself, I don't know. I just don't get it. Right? I'm sorry. I just don't get it. Now, Phil taught me. Jeff mentioned that I liked to do as much as possible. And even though I had no real interest in sports and therefore no knowledge of it, Phil took me along and he said, look, we always need a utility guy. He taught me some finer points about football, enough to the point of keeping stats. I didn't know about stats. How long possession, how many yards, how many plays, what did it take, and I learned to do this, sitting there up in the old rickety press box on the visitor's side, right? Taking stats, running them upstairs to the guys in the penthouse, right? Jeff and Phil, eventually Phil and Neil. Wow. And I loved it. So much so that Phil said to me, and this was, I think, after we graduated. You were a senior at the time, and Post was playing Northeastern. I think you were a senior at the time. And Phil said...
I think we have unwittingly moved on to Phil Lebowitz, actually.
Well, I'm talking about Phil. That's okay. It's all right, right? He said, Joel, let's go up to Boston. Phil and Jeff were going to call the game. So Phil and I jump in my little MGB, and we drive up to Boston. We cover the game. I'm working quote, utility, stats and all that. And afterwards, we decide to go out to dinner. So I'm in my little MG, and we're on Massachusetts Avenue, and I make a left turn, and somebody slams into me. And I'm out. I'm heartbroken because of my little baby sports car. Jeff will tell you, I'm out on Massachusetts Avenue, picking up the pieces of the rear view lens.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
I understand that, right?
With cars whizzing by
Yeah,
on Massachusetts
on
Avenue.
Massachusetts Avenue.
Yes.
And that was
In the dark.
in the dark, yes. So that's been very important to me. So Phil, as I said, he allowed me to be able to participate in something I originally knew nothing about. And so, Phil, I say to you directly, when you watch this, or if you're watching this now, I wish you were able to be here today. We could stand side by side in this great honor. Congratulations on your induction at the WCWP Hall of Fame. Mike came long after my era at Post, and so I did not have the opportunity to get to know you or work with you. That doesn't matter one tiny bit, because our respective times at WCWP are the ties that bind us together. it will always be a common bond we share with all the generations, from the beginning some almost 63 years ago to the present generation, who now occupies, as Jeff pointed out, a brand spanking new renovated facility. In Hebrew, they say, Ledor Vador, from generation to generation. So I feel very comfortable and connected to congratulate you as well. Last year's ceremony, Dan Reagan made a comment in his acceptance remark. He pointed out that you should be standing here, and in a few short minutes you will be, and deservedly so. I have many people to thank for my times at WCWP. I've developed skills which have served me professionally, and they have shaped my way in this world. Bill Moser for establishing that culture of professionalism that we always talked about. It was one of the basic things. That station had a profound effect on nearly everything I've accomplished, even to this day. Our beloved Epi, Bill Epperhart, who with great patience, which he normally didn't have, taught me so much about computers and how they function, so much so, to the point that I'm often asked by many of my elderly neighbors who are less technically inclined to help with their computer problems. Joe Honorkamp. Joe, if you're watching this, you were my roommate senior year, and he was really responsible for breaking me through to the gatekeepers. To their credit, Jeff, Bruce Leonard, the more established people, were always welcoming but always leery of newcomers because, you have to be kind of careful. Joe, how I wish you could have been here today, but your health issues do not allow that. When you watch this, I love you, buddy. And last, but certainly not most, far from least, my buddy Jeff Kroll. For more than 50 years, when I first came to know you on that fateful December evening, right, with the ice storm,
Yep.
right? Jeff did not have power at home. We had to be at the station. And so Joe invited Jeff to crash in our room. And I remember very clearly saying to Joe, this is a guy I think I could be friends with. And the rest is history. Jeff, you taught me so much more about doing music shows and covering sports. To have you present with me in this induction is to say, well, that's the icing on top, but that is greatly, greatly an understatement. I also want to thank my wife, Michelle, for 25 years for putting up with all my mishigas. And she will tell you there are tons of it. I know you found it difficult at times to understand why me and my WCWP friends had tendencies to live in the past. Right. But honey, it's really about history. It's a common history that we all share. And so, in closing, I am and I will always be grateful for being allowed to stand on this mountain with my fellow inductees today and with all those who have gone before. From the very bottom of my heart and soul, I thank you.
Hi to Suzanne.
Suzanne, I thank you for all your efforts. It is actually 50 years, almost to the week, that I left this place, and I am finally very, very, very honored to be part of the gang. Alan, we've had our fun together, and I appreciate all of your efforts and all of that. So my thanks to the committee, my thanks to Dan Reagan. Welcome back. Thank God. Thank you very, very much, people. I'm sorry. Yep. Here.
In front of the step.
In front of the step?
In front of the backdrop.
The LIU backdrop?
Take it
Remember LIU?
All right, yeah.
Take it from this angle.
This angle?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Good.
Happy with that?
Thank you.
Well, as I quipped, I think we're half done with our next inductee as well. Phil, the original plan was that Joel was going to be inducted, and then Phil is not here today, Phil Lebowitz, and that Joel would help me induct him. Joel just spilled all his stories right there. So we'll move right along. Yes.
How did that get on there?
I don't know. There we go. We're back.
You're
We're back. And we're back. Did we have to stop for a station break? An ID? We're good? We're all right?
Legal ID in 13.
All right. Very good.
Who cares about those anymore?
Our next inductee is Phil Lebowitz. Phil started in the station in 1970, September 1970. The significance of that is just 2 months later, in November of 1970, the station was shut down by the university. The guy was running the place, a guy named Steve Post, and the school felt that what was going out over the air was, to say, let's use the term inappropriate. That's good. That's a good term. And they were really frightened that they were going to lose their license over what was going on. So they shut the station down completely and threw Steve Post out. There's a movie, there's a book, there's all kinds of stuff about Steve Post. He's quite a character. And there are all chapters about what happened on this campus and at that radio station.
If you'd
So
like a
it's,
copy, I can send you a PDF of that chapter.
yep, of Steve Post. So here's Phil. He's an incoming freshman. He's as gung-ho as anybody to get into the radio. They shut the place down around him just 2 months after he started. In February, now we're into 71, they start the station again. Bill Moser is put in charge. He had been the chief engineer. He's a young guy at the time. I think he was all of maybe 24, 25 years old at the time. And they give him the job of not just chief engineer, but running the station. And so he tries to put it back together, but the factions that collided over this shutdown, it makes yesterday's news seem like, I'm not trying to belittle what happened, but that's number one on a Richter scale right there, what happened back in 1970. So Phil comes back, and there's literally less than 2 handfuls of people from what had been a very large staff. Less than 2 handfuls came back to run the radio station. And they're trying to put this whole thing together. They have no department set up. They have nothing going on. But Bill is insistent that we're going to pull this off. We're going to get this going with his help of his good friend Bill Epperhart. And the original guys like Frank DeLeo was here. And Bernie Bernard was one of those that came back. Harry Lowenthal, right? And Mike Riccio was certainly big on the music side of things. And this small band started this station that we now know as WCWP. It was a total restart from the ground up. So Phil gets in on the ground floor. Phil has to do everything, because if you want to survive in that place, you literally have to do everything. I was talking about that when I was talking about Joel's history. You can even double that when there's like nobody in the place. So Phil, again, is a guy, he lived out in New Jersey, but he lived on campus for school. So another guy who could fall into the place at any hour of any day and help out. And he did everything, tape shifts, news shifts, he did everything and anything. But he always said, I really want to run the sports department. That's really my love, is sports. So Bill took the leap and put this freshman in charge of the WCWP sports department, and he built it from the ground up. I show up, certainly not all about me, but just to show the timeline, I show up in September of 71 now. Phil is starting his first really full semester as sports director, and I walk in and realize they need lots of help, and I love sports. Well, if you want to be involved in the sports department, Phil's the guy you got to get to know. So I get to know Phil. What did I learn quickly about Phil? Phil's car trunk was full of, he could have opened his own sporting goods store. Phil had multiple footballs, orange cones that he could lay out a field anywhere we wanted to have a touch football game. He had multiple baseball bats, gloves, baseballs, softballs, stickball bats, the old pink, we call them Pensy Pinkies, whatever you know them as, the old pink ball, Spaldings that we would use for stickball. He had plenty of those and the sticks to go with it, and we would play stickball up by the dorms on some of the brick walls behind the dorms. We had a lot of stickball games back there. Basketballs, I remember tennis rackets and tennis balls. So literally, whatever you wanted to do, Phil would open his trunk, and was ready for business. So he was into sports. And so we became close friends, and he built this department. The legacy of the department that Phil built, I took it over after him. Neil Marks took it over from me. I believe that Dan took it over from Phil, and Fred Godelli took it over from Dan. And you can just then go up on the line, and it all started with one guy and his vision and some of the shows and stuff that he did. One of his biggest contributions was he had this gift to go out and raise money. Few do. You know, we always talk about...
Use a guy like that.
I know, yes. But even back in his student days, he had a way about him. He could go out and raise money. When we went out to cover a football game in those days, we would take some telephones, there'd be a jack, and we usually had to take the thing apart and wire it together into a small mixer and create something and then dial in somehow to the radio station. Collect, by the way, was the way it was done. Very expensive call. The line was open for like 4 hours, you know.
But it's a local.
Yeah, from Kentucky and Massachusetts and all the various places.
The local call didn't leave the county.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yes, side note, I moved
Suffolk County, it was
in high school. I moved, total side note, I moved to Nassau County from Queens in high school and literally lost touch with everybody I knew in Queens because that was actually, calling back to Queens was actually a big deal. So I lost touch with everybody I knew in Queens and developed a whole new friend set out here. Phil found equipment that would solve, but he needed to raise money to do it. He went out and got the money. And it was a dial-in system that we literally plugged in. It was used for years. There was one unit that sat in the racks in the studio, and then we would take the one on the road in a briefcase. And we'd open it up, plug it in, and we were good.
I think I threw that out 22 years ago.
Well, it lasted a long, long time because he got that in 1973, I believe, is when he got that. Yep.
I needed an analog phone line, and they don't exist anymore.
No. So as long as the phone company got us a line, when we would get to some foreign press box somewhere, we were good to go. And that's all thanks to Phil. There was also a banner. I put up something. I don't know how many of you get on Facebook, but I put a picture up yesterday of a banner also that Phil had made through funds that he raised, that we traveled all over the country with to games, WCWP 88.1 FM, and in green and gold, our old colors. And we were proud of that. It's the first thing we had. Before we even took the mixer out of the bag, that banner went up in front of wherever the press box was that we were in. And he went on to a long career at NBC in the radio division, and then radio and NBC kind of ceased to exist and kind of drifted into the television side and was there for many, many years. But he's another one. You know, I said it for Joel. I'm going to say it again for Phil. A Hall of Famer, myself, a Hall of Famer knows who a Hall of Famer is, and Phil Lebowitz is a Hall of Famer. Now, I mentioned that Phil could not be with us today. He lives in Arizona and was unable to join us, again, for some health reasons. And so he sent a video, which I know is set and ready to go.
Well, the technology today has been...
In 5, 4, 3, 2. Do we have a jingle to lead into it? Do we have...
There's Phil.
But Phil, you'll see Phil out in his backyard in Surprise, Arizona. If you know where that is, it's a suburb of Phoenix. And
Good
there he is.
afternoon, and welcome to my home here in Surprise, Arizona. Beautiful, sunny Surprise, Arizona. I can't believe I've been here for almost 9 years. It'll be 9 years in 2 weeks, and it seems like a lifetime because I love it out here. But it also means that I'm that long ago since I was at CW Post and WCWP, which is an eternity almost. Where do I start by saying thank you? I guess I have to start with Suzanne and Neil and their committee for appointing me this wonderful honor, which I'm very proud to be a member of. I also want to say congratulations to Mike, who unfortunately I've never met, but I also want to congratulate my old friend Fudgy, as you know, Joel Feltman. Joel and I go way back, and if I was to start telling stories, I'd be here for the next 6 years. I'm proud to be one of the early members of WCWP that have chosen broadcasting as their career. And that was a major accomplishment for a lot of us. Many of whom I work with in NBC, but others that went on to work in other members of the media. But who do I really begin to thank personally? I think my biggest mentor has to be Bill Moser, and of course, his right arm and Gal Friday and Gaffney, or we know as Mrs. G. Mrs. G was instrumental in babysitting many of us immature college kids and helped teach us to become better adults. And to her, I owe a great deal of thanks. I also need to thank Bill. Bill gave me the opportunity and guidance to be an adult as well. And he gave me free rein to build what was a very successful department for sports and other things. And I have to thank him for that. The one thing he never let me do, which I wanted to do, was report a live broadcast at the PGA Championship in Bethpage, because he said, who's going to listen to golf on the radio? Well, evidently now there's an entire network of that, so maybe I had a decent idea, but Bill didn't see it. WCWP allowed me to become a member of the community and raise money for our trips and buy equipment. And I was a regular member of the media events throughout and covering teams like the Cosmos and the Islanders in their early days as a full member of the media. Also, NASCAR, before NASCAR even existed, we went to several press conferences in Manhattan for that, both my associates and I. I have to thank certain people who were very close, like Alan Kushner, who was not only my broadcast partner, but my roommate, and my friend Rick Brody, who Rick and I have more stories than Joel and I have. So that's another time, another place. But I can remember when we went, even one of our professors assigned us to work on a committee to elect a Republican congressman. And that was 1972 when we got to go to the Republican headquarters, the year that Nixon landslided everybody. And not that I'm a Nixon fan, but we had one of the greatest nights ever covering everything else that was going on that day. I also have to thank Joe Honerkamp, who went on several trips with us. One story I have to tell is that our equipment was delivered in the wrong place, and we wound up sitting in the stands at Southern Connecticut in order to do a game. Well, at the first break, I think it was Jeff Kroll in the studio, said, we can't hear you because the PA is drowning you out. Well, telling this to Joe, he says, I'll take care of it. He proceeded to go into his bag of tricks and pull out a pair of wire cutters, and when it was calm for a minute, walked over and cut out about a 5 piece of wire and disabled the PA system for the rest of the game. That satisfied everybody back in the studio. Also, Joe and I had gone on a trip to Kentucky, and along with Rick and Al, and that was an unbelievable trip for many reasons, but the biggest one was that we got to go through the Shriners Crippled Children Hospital in Lexington, and that was an event that I'll remember forever, and I'm sure Joe will too. I don't think Joe's with you today, but I wish him the best of health, as I know he's not feeling that great. I also was able to, it opened many doors for me. I should say WCWP opened many doors to me. In addition to the things I mentioned, I got to write for the New York Post and the Daily News, as well as NFL Game Day, which was the program that was sold at every single NFL game throughout the 2-year period, and I had a feature article on that every week. And these are things that, without my experience at WCWP, it would never have happened. And last but not least, I have to thank Jeff and Pat Kroll, who are dear friends, and Jeff, who nominated me for this, and I thank him very much. And I'm sorry I can't be there with all of you, but Jeff and I have had a lifetime of experience as well, traveling to games, outrunning bloodhounds. I think, Jeff, you'll know what I'm talking about. And these are things that were in my past, but not forgotten. My thanks to everybody. Sorry if I'm a little rough. I'm not as polished as I used to be in making speeches, but I wish you all the best, and thank you very much for this wonderful honor.
I after Phil sent that in to me, I assured him that the story was okay to tell about clipping the PA system. I said the statute of limitations is definitely up, so they won't have an arrest warrant up in Connecticut for him at any time. But that is true. They cut the PA system out completely so that our broadcast was nice and clean that day. Just one other Phil story, and then I'll get out of the way. Does anyone from the past have one of these? WCWP press card. I don't know how much you can see this, but it says press. It's got WCWP. It has the AM, 640 AM from the Carrier Current Days and 88.1 FM.
I had a fake ID like that once.
Did you? Okay. It's got my name and my address at the time I was in school, and it's signed by William J. Moser. He had great handwriting. Beautiful. Far better than mine. I can't even read my own handwriting. Anyway, we had these. Neil, did you get, this is before you, and so then Dan, you didn't have one of these either. Okay. Well, once in a while it helped us get into things, and Phil and I were in Philadelphia to cover a football game against Drexel. The game, of course, would be Saturday. Friday night we were there early in the evening, and Phil says, hey, the 76ers are home. What if we go try to get into the Spectrum? We'll go see the 76ers. They're playing Milwaukee. In those days, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was still with the Bucks. For those who don't know, he played 6 years with Milwaukee before he had the fabulous career with the Lakers. So, hey, great, yeah, let's go to a basketball game. We got nothing else to go. All right, keep your card out. We'll go up to the ticket window. I'll do all the talking, he says. Okay. Flash the cards. He says, hi, we're from WCWP Radio in New York. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was born and raised in New York. We're here to cover him while he plays here in Philadelphia. And the guy goes, oh, great, yeah, sure, go right ahead, go in. And we went in and got to see Kareem score 35 that night and beat the 76ers. We just walked into the old Spectrum down there in Philadelphia. I know, you can't do that anymore. I get it, but that was Phil. Gift of gab, if it comes to fundraising, or in this case, a little fun for us. Phil Lebowitz, not here today, but I'm going to accept this plaque on his behalf, and obviously we'll send it to him. Phil, as you watch the tape, congratulations, and hope to see you very soon. Take the picture.
Okay.
You look like a criminal.
Yeah.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Inmate number 2023.
Yes, it's got my number. It goes back to Connecticut, right? The whole thing. Thank you for indulging me for 2 inductees, and I look forward very much to hearing this next inductee.
I didn't know you had this many friends, Jeff. That was nice. That was nice. You got it? Okay. I just want to build on a couple of things. Yesterday, I took my wife to LaGuardia. I dropped her off around 5 o'clock. Took 38 minutes to get there from Glen Cove. Took an hour and 45 minutes to get home. So I understand your pain, Joel. Yeah, New York traffic is a nightmare. Every time I see a plate from another state, I want to just scream, go home. Just go the hell home. We've got enough cars in this state already. Yeah, that's one thing. And something that Jeff said I was going to mention, but I'm glad you did. The building, the Abrams Communications Center, is a labor of love for me. It's been in the works for 20 years. I explained that all last year when I made the presentation of the gift that we got from this incredible family who had a ribbon cutting last week. You were not invited, I apologize, but the family wanted a private ribbon cutting. It was just family and a few friends, but they truly walked through the place, and all three sisters were there, including their children, grandchildren, and a couple of great-grandchildren of Marjorie's, and they loved the place, and that was enough for me to know that we had done a pretty good job. So I hope you enjoy it. After this, I would recommend, if you really want to walk, it's a beautiful day, but drive around, then take the walk. Unfortunately, as many of you know, in 1973, you were here before 73, they built the Hillwood Commons and cut us off from the quad. Right now, you need to go through the Hillwood Commons to get to the quad. Unfortunately, the Hillwood Commons is closed for renovation, so you'd have to walk around the Hillwood Commons and the Tillis Center to get to the quad. So maybe you do want to take
So like the old days, walking through the woods.
yeah, you have to go through the woods to get there. But I mean, I would recommend driving around and then come in, stay a while, stay as long as you like, and enjoy the. I don't think anybody's on the air today, live. No, I don't think so. Unfortunately, I didn't have a schedule to look at. But anyway, moving on. Andrew, one of our recent alumni. Andrew, welcome back, sir. Thanks, Dad.
He got scared right there.
He got scared. Well, you see, the thing about Andrew is every time I said his name at the radio station, he knew he was going to get in trouble for something. So
He gave that panic look.
he was one of my sports directors, and he was. I guess Phil, he'd get along with Phil. He was a good, aggressive kid who liked to get things done. So that's okay. But he always knew when he was in trouble because I go, Andrew! And sometimes I just did it just to get a rise out of him. But well, I'm glad you're here, Andrew. Thank you. Anyway, the next inductee is going to be presented to you by Tim Ernandes. Tim?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What the hell is this? I promise not to make fun of your last name, and this is what you do to me?
You got a new one, I'll listen to it. Geez, come on, I've heard them all.
All right, Dan.
Thank you. It is my great pleasure to be here today. All right, maybe it isn't, but the following program was made possible by a series of head injuries. And it is brought to you by AFQUAC Supplemental Insurance. With AFQUAC, you won't have to duck bill collectors. By Dr. Finn's Fabulous Frog Wax. Don't wax your frog without it. Friends, we are here today to honor Bert Kaufman? Oh, that can't, no. Mike Maimone, yes. Well, Mike asked me to introduce him. I kept thinking about those celebrity roasts they used to do with Dean Martin. My favorite roaster was Mr. Warmth, Don Rickles. Yeah, that's right. I know, Maimone. Well, somebody wake him up so he can hear this. And tell him to slap in his hearing aids. Speaking of hearing aids, who buys hearing aids at Dollar General? I'll never forget the day I met Mike Maimone, but I keep trying. You haven't changed since the last time I saw you, Mike. Maybe you should try. During COVID, Mike was very happy when his test came back negative. But nobody had the heart to tell him it was an IQ test. I gotta be careful, you know. Mike's Italian. Somebody look, is he getting out the ice pick? Come on, Mike, tell us the truth. Did you have to kiss Rush's ring? I don't know if you noticed, but Rush kept it in his back pocket. I've known Mike for more than 45 years. I had started post-serial with Jim Mulvey, but for reasons I won't go into here, I ended up working solo. That is, until Mitch Goldman joined me. He immediately began adding to the program's comedy collection. Unfortunately, what he added was scratches to the records. It wasn't long before people were begging me to get rid of him. Back then, he was maligned, mistrusted, and disliked. Today, he's an attorney. Enter Mike Maimone. He distinguished himself by arriving at the radio station and immediately leaving again. A silent film director by trade, he immediately saw the potential in the talking box. For one thing, it was great for setting down a beer on top of it. Post-serial's hallmark theater of the mind sprang from his magic fingers, which also induced more than one cry for help on the subway. His hobbies include walking on all fours and barking at the moon, staring directly at the sun, and slapping Mitch Goldman. From the moment we met, we realized that we shared a common interest, but she wouldn't go out with either one of us. Mike and I became fast friends, and I got to know him very well. It wasn't long before I became a frequent guest at his home and got to know his entire family. His dad was a typical Italian dad. Who the hell are you? What the hell are you boys up to? Where's my underwear? Who stole my white table? His mom was a lovely lady, and you could tell that she had a special rapport with Mike. She was very sweet, and I could tell that Mike got his wacky sense of humor from her. It wasn't long before I became a frequent overnight guest at their house, and for supper, she would usually prepare her favorite recipe, which she liked to call stringy meat. Mike had an older brother named Robert, who liked to go by the pseudonym Dr. Haydn Prong, and he would often sign notes to us simply as Prong. His younger brother, Bill, is a genius. We're still trying to find out if he was adopted. Mike also has a sister, Karen, who is a girl. When Mike was very young, his family moved around a lot, but he always managed to find them. We used to do a lot of crazy things together outside of the radio station. One time when I was at his house, we went up on the roof and put on a puppet show for the neighborhood kids. The lady next door loved it and shouted her encouragement. Then Mike's dad came home, and in his own special way, he said, "Get the hell off that roof!" One time, a friend of mine came home from the Army, and he brought me a somewhat unusual gift. A tripwire with a relatively minor explosive charge attached to it that was used to train soldiers to avoid booby traps. Immediately, we realized this must be put to good use. After careful thought, after some thought, we decided to take my old 8mm movie camera to campus and shoot a stop-action film. We would pretend to be riding motorcycles around the Great Lawn and filming it a frame at a time because we didn't have motorcycles. We were just standing there pretending we had motorcycles. So we filled it a frame at a time and moved a little bit after each frame. This culminated in one of us, I don't remember which one, crashing into a big litter basket, whereupon we would set off the trip charge to make it look like the crash caused an explosion. It seemed like a good idea at the time. We shot the film, and then after moving a safe distance from the trash basket, we pulled the tripwire. Fortunately for us, it was summertime, and school was not in session. The explosion made a huge fiery flash, lots of smoke, and the sonic boom probably would have registered on the Richter scale. The windows in all the buildings rattled, and I don't recall who said it or what exactly the words were, but it was something to the effect of, "Holy crap, let's get out of here!" Sometimes our pranks would get a little out of hand, like the time that we did our entire show from the men's room, or when we mailed Rich Frazita to a gender assignment clinic. However, I must make it very clear that there is absolutely no truth to the rumor that we hired 2 Russian hookers to pee on Ted David's couch. Some of my best memories are of Sunday evenings during our college days. We would often go to the Fireside Deli and buy food and go back to the station and work on show prep while we ate. After the show, we would ditch Goldman and go to a pub and order burgers and Molson Ale to celebrate. I didn't know then that these would be some of the best times of my life. We would also have production meetings on Thursday evenings at the station, and beforehand, to prime the pump, we'd get food. Sometimes we'd go to McDonald's, and when they'd ask for our order, I'd say, "So, you know, I'd like 2 cheeseburgers and some French fries for the kiddies, you know." They didn't wait on us. And then other times we go to Burger King and Mike would ask to see the king. Then we go back to the station and annoy people. After graduation, I got my first paying job in radio in Frederick, Maryland. It all started in a little 5,000-watt radio station. Soon after, it was Mike's turn to leave the nest, and he took an engineering job in Baltimore, which made him conveniently nearby. But the job didn't pan out, and I tried to get him a job with me, but he chose to return to New York. He bounced around for a while, briefly got work as a model for the Hair Club for Men, and Jenny Craig as the before picture. Then later as a speechwriter for Bobcat Goldthwait. And then Rush hired him as a food taster. Mike and I share many similar viewpoints. For example, we both agree that it is theoretically possible to stop thinking about sex. He's had some interesting moments in his life that I did not share with him, like the time when he went to his first gender reveal party and was arrested. In 1984, Mike met the love of his life, but she wouldn't go out with him. This concludes the entertainment portion of my remarks. I knew a very wise man once who said to me, "You may think you have a lot of friends, but in truth, most of them are friendly acquaintances." And there's nothing wrong with that. They're acquaintances and you're very friendly with them. But you only have a few really good friends in your life. I can count mine on one hand. 2 of them are in this room tonight. In 2011, my only son was murdered. And those 2 gentlemen came to comfort me, as did all the others in that group. And they came from a long way away. And Mike Maimone was in that number, came all the way down to southwestern Virginia from New York to be with me. And he sat with my family at the funeral. There have been so many times over the last 45 years that I counted on Mike's friendship and he never disappointed. I love Mike Maimone. He is a true friend. He came to visit me a couple of years ago and we celebrated by almost sinking my boat. And my mother was so delighted to see Mike, because she always had a soft spot in her heart for him. And she was so thrilled the day that she turned the radio on and she heard Rush Limbaugh's show, and he mentioned his engineer, Mike Maimone. My mother called me on the phone. "You're not going to believe this! Mike Maimone!" Mike, for his part, made sure that my mother got autographed books, and he was always a welcome guest in our home. and I just cannot express my lasting love and friendship for this man who apparently is from the same planet that I'm from. And when he came to visit me, we were together for about 5 minutes, and I almost cried, and I said, Mike, I've missed you so much. It is a great honor. Well, I'll say it as Foster Brooke. To introduce my good friend, Mike Maimone. And I also would like to recognize our mentor, Bill Mazer. With that, I will invite my dear friend and the best partner I ever had, Mike Maimone, to come up and accept his award. Mike.
Oh, shit. Said everything I was going to say.
Oh, all right.
But just one thing that I do have to mention about friends and the commonality that we all have is that Tim also took Amtrak and, was majorly late, and it just so happened at that particular time, at that day, that my wife had a flat tire and was seriously stressing over. And it was the same thing. It's like we call the tow truck, and I called the guy. I said, look, I'm going to be late for work. I just got to deal with this. The tow truck said, yeah, we'll be there in 2 hours. And I said, no. I said, call another tow truck that I can actually pay for out of pocket, drag it back to my house. I can change the tire in 2 hours. So I get home, and, it's like, all right, there's nothing I can do. So I go to work, and I'm supposed to pick him up from Amtrak, which is running first an hour late, then it's like more than an hour late. So I'm now driving through Midtown at rush hour. It's something that you'd only do for a serious friend. So then we get back to the house, and we have bite to eat, and then we go out to address the tire, because Tim, as you might have guessed, or you might know, that he is a man who can do almost anything. He can build a car from spare parts, build an intercom from, this mouse. Hello, computer. See? That's another commonality, is that we pull, from all these various things. So it's like we get home and we're sitting there in the dark, wondering, why won't this tire fill up? But we got it. It's all done this morning. So anyway, that's the commonality. But the other common point in that we all have stories. We all have broadcast stories. They're almost, and it's like you've told them to so many people, it's almost like saying, let me show you my family slides. And, even to the point where it's like, I was working with a guy, we were in Atlantic City one night, and, we had been doing a remote, it was late, we were out walking in the streets, and it's like, there's nobody out in the streets, everybody's in the casinos, and he says, you know what? He says, let's go hire a couple of hookers, bring them up to our room and tell them broadcast stories. So this, it's like we can do that here because we know the stories. We know, what, basically where they come from, and have all done them all ourselves. Dan talked about, not knowing who's on the air today. It's like because it's common that it's taped programming or recorded programming. Back in our day, we had the tape shift. So we all had to do the tape shift. It's like push the tape, start the tape going. So we move on. We move up into the world. We get a job, and it's like find out, how to do the rest of the race. So now there's all kinds of live people all around. So all right, and then I start to move on. You mentioned the utility player, and it's like suddenly I became the utility player. I, who had zero interest in sports, wound up doing Yankee baseball, Jets football, and then freelance I was doing Rangers, Islanders, Devils. No, actually the Devils I was actually assigned to do. So I was all over the place, and I traveled with the Jets and the Yankees. I would run into Dan, I would run into Freddie, It just, it's like I would run into him. It's like Yankee Stadium. It's like I would run into Dan in the airport more than once. So, and he was nice enough also to. It's like me and my wife at the time. It's like it's like, oh, we got a layover. He says, come with me. He says, you don't have to layover. So he brings us to the the special was the Delta. The Delta Lounge, and it is like, it's just like, yeah. So we hung out in there for a while, which was very, very nice. Thank you again.
Did you hire hookers to go there too?
No, I had the wife with me. So, all right. So anyway, but when I first discovered of Post Serial, it's like I had started in Oswego to go into broadcasting, and the program there was impossible to get into. It was like there was just so much. So I decided, you know what? This broadcasting thing is never going to work for me. Let me go to do business administration. And I have a friend who's at Post, so I'll go there. 2 weeks in, it's like, this isn't going to work for me either. So I'm sitting around, it's like, all right, well, what the hell do I do now? So I was working in Hillwood Commons. I had a part-time job as a projectionist, and it was, on the weekends or, whenever they had movies, and I see the Post Literary Magazine, the Daily Planet, and there's an article about this guy and Jim Mulvey. It's like starting a radio show, and it's like, well, shit, I could do that. I mean, because, as he said,
You said shit.
I did it twice. Hit the delay button.
Okay.
So, my mom's interest, my mom did get me that sense of humor, and it's like early on she bombarded me with comedy records, much to her chagrin later on, because it's like when she gave us the Cheech and Chong records, we would parrot them endlessly. It drove her nuts, and we were convinced that we were all on drugs. And, well, I wasn't, but it just made it sound that way. So, and then I joined the show, and it's like when we started, we just clicked. As Tim said, it's like we each fed off each other, and we grew this thing. So Rich Vizita joined us, Chris Palzini joined us, Rob Clark. Rich then met his now wife there as well.
I noticed you conveniently omitted Goldman.
I figured you got to go. It's like, I didn't make the notes that you did. I got 5 words here on an iPad. So it was very important, and it was very important. And since I don't know how long Post Serial lasted after that we left, but it's something that I don't think that could ever be done today, because everyone's so worried about offending people. It's something that we could really, really, really use, but it's like, how are you going to do it? But so anyway, I took that to WABC with me. And while he mentioned my first job in Baltimore, I should mention that I got fired for talking in the halls. The chief engineer was really, really strict, did not like air talent. And because I made friends with the air talent, it's like, well, that was a no-no. So it's like I was out of there in a couple of months. And I got another job, and that's when Bill said, like, there's a job here at WABC. It's like you can be a vacation relief, which was great, because it's like you go there, you work for the summer, you make a lot of money doing lots of overtime. And luckily, somebody actually got fired. It took them a couple of years to get them fired, and I was lucky to be there. This woman, she just called in sick, like a lot. She had reached the level of, we had timed it against a major league ball player who spent much of his career on the DL, or so didn't play. And then when she exceeded that, she says, well, I think she should go for the record of the hostages in Iran to see how long that they were there. It's like, well, all right, we gave them time off for vacations and stuff like that. So she got fired, and I luckily, it's like I got the job. So it's like, wow. So I stayed, and that's when I became a utility player. And then the Rush Limbaugh thing came around. It's like Rush joined the station, and just nicest guy in the world, the easiest person to work with, and funny as hell. But one of the things that I think also made it is that when we did Post Serial, we had lots of cards. We had hundreds.
Yeah, probably.
Hundreds. So I took this to the Rush Limbaugh show, because when the show first started, it was hysterical and not as political as it became. So we had sound effects for everything. We would, so it's like I had more than hundreds. I think I probably had over 1,000. It's like I had more carts than anybody in the radio station. When they went digital, they said, "Here, just take them, put them all in that room, leave us alone." So, and you could do the cart flip. It's like where you take a stack of 12, pull out the bottom one without knocking the rest of them over. It can be done. So we had more kinds of fun, and this is one of those annoying broadcasting stories, is that in a network show, there is dead time to be filled, local avails. And we played public service announcements. All right, so one of my fill-in guys, he's like, there was this one PSAs for panic attacks, and it was overly dramatic. It's like, you hear a train whistle off in the background, and then a heartbeat, and it's coming again. You never know when it's going to show up. And then the panic attacks, your chest tightens, and it was so overly dramatic. So one of the guys who used to fill in, he used to throw in a duck quacking. Just random noise. So I said, all right, there we can go, we can take this a little bit further, which I did. So out of 6 cart machines, 1 was playing the spot, the other 5 were playing other things. Bodies falling, knives, arrows, spears, screams, many different types of screams. And, Rush just looked at me because we had heard this PSA a gazillion times, and to us it was funny.
Speaking of which, can I cut in here for a second? One thing that I neglected to mention was that I was a devotee of Rush's program, especially since Mike was a big part of it. And the best part about it for me was when Rush would say something funny and I would go, "Maimone said that to him in the intercom." And I knew it every time. And I would always ask him, yeah, that was me. And it just goes to show how much I was tuned in to the way Mike did things. And
we call that a cha-ching moment. When we,
yes.
It's like when he would use, it was me and Kit, and sometimes there would be another person. We would throw lines in, and Rush would use them, and we get cha-ching. Okay, it's more than what cha-ching. So back to the PSA.
Yes, sir.
So one day, well, since we all thought this was hysterical, people would come in, we'd have the management come in, and they would just like, "Listen to this is hysterical, this is funny as shit." It's like, God, the real show is going on in here. It's like, so, okay, so we're having a good time. One day a woman calls, and she says, "I heard your PSA, and I have panic attacks, and I didn't think it was funny." So, James, the call screener, says, "Well, we got to put this one right up on the air." So we go on we take the call, and she says, like, "I heard that, the PSA had panic attacks," and it's like, "I have panic attacks, and it's a really serious thing," and, it's like, "I really don't think it was funny." So Rush says, 90% of the listeners have no idea what you're talking about. So let me tell you what it is. So he explains the whole concept of the local avails and the PSAs. So, and he says, so since many of you have never heard this before, we're going to play it for you. So, of course, I put this PSA in, and I take out all the stops. And we had a version of Ross Perot singing "They're Coming to Take Me Away," which we closed with, and we went into the commercial break. So we thought, great bit, hysterical, this is funny. 15 minutes later, well, 10 minutes later, the public service director for ABC comes in and says, "What the hell are you doing in here?" I said, "Paulette, this is a network thing. I don't think you have to worry about it." She said, "Fine, okay." So then, since it was relatively early in the show and we hadn't been sued we hadn't really been sued like a bunch of times yet, one of Rush's partners come up and says, "These people calling up, just like they're going to sue us," and it's like, well, it's like, dude, you were here. It's like, we all heard this. So, we kind of like nailed it over, and he's like, what do we do? What do we do? So, I told Rush, I said, look, I got a day off. I got a day off coming up on Monday. It was Friday. I said, tell him you suspended me. So tell him you suspended me. He says, tell him for like PSA tampering. I don't know, whatever. And he says, you really want that? I said, what are they going to do? Put it on my permanent record? So,
Yes.
Well, they did.
All right.
That's why I can't fly today. So I'm out and about, at noon, and it's like I'm in the parking lot of a store, and the show starts. I said, all right, let me just hear the beginning, see what happens. He leads the show with it. He says, something happened last week that, I really just want to, come clean about, and it's like, so he explains kind of the whole thing, and he says like, I really wasn't aware that, that was really going on to this extent. But, so we suspended him. We suspended him for PSA tampering, and then people started calling, says, he got a raw deal. It's like, that's just wrong. That's wrong. It's like wrong. So the lawsuit went away, and it was like, well, shit, that was easy. So
You said shit again.
damn it. This is why I'm not on the air anymore. So we go to a Christmas party later, and I see one of the our lawyer. I saw the lawyer for the show, and I said, how did that whole thing work out? They said, well, they could have sued us, but by suspending yourself, it's like you avoided the lawsuit. So it's like, well, thank you so much for that. But so anyway, work story done. So at this point, I would like to thank my
You
longtime-
forgot my name?
Rush Limbaugh. No.
This is a Rush Limbaugh tie. by the
So,
way.
but I'd like to thank, Tim, my partner, for because he was actually the one that made me possible. I'm not going to don't tell my dad.
Does your dad know about this?
I wasn't going to tell him. Bring out the Ouija board. So, I'd like to thank Dan and for spearheading me and mentioning, including Larry, Gina, and Bill Mazer, who had great influence on all of us.
Yes.
I would also like to thank my lovely wife, who still can't quite understand why I say the things that I say, and it's like it's like no, that was a joke. it's like it was funny. So we're still working that out, but it's I'm very, very happy and thrilled to be included in the Hall of Fame, and thank you, Suzanne. Let's see. I think did I get everything?
I don't know. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So, anyway, thank you so much. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, America.
Thank you, America.
Yes.
And
Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
As one of our special parting gifts, you get a cardboard box to take it home in. And bubble wrap. It's already been pre-bubbled. No, sorry, it's already been switched. I had nothing better to do over there while you were talking.
Kept you amused.
I actually was fortunate to be on Post Serial for 2 years with Rich Frazita and Tony Triguardo and Lonnie Musiello as a bit player, editing phone calls that we would take. And I did the on-air show before it went on, so I just stayed and helped out. But some of my earliest memories of arriving at WCWP was meeting Tim and meeting Mike in I guess where the mailboxes were in the back. You guys were in there doing some kind of mischief. And I remember saying, I don't like that guy Tim, but Mike seems very nice. And
We all said that.
And
My mother said that.
I would listen, and I wasn't on the air yet because I was new. I was a sophomore transfer. And, but I would listen. and I'm going to say something that we can't use on the air. You guys were fucking funny. And I love the fact, and yes, the things that we did on the show when we did it, and certainly built on what you guys did, we'd all be canceled today. And that's unfortunate, because some of the humor back in those days was extraordinary. Really, I think it was, they said SNL of the 70s was quality, and I think it was. But listening to you guys and listening to what legacy you left for the few years that it continued post-Serial, I would love to see a kid try to do a show like that today. It would be so milquetoast. It would be so bland. It would be so awful. But I mean, I just, me personally,
10 minutes.
yeah, and wouldn't last very long before the cops came in and took them. But I personally would like to applaud you once again, because I loved post-Serial, and I still do to this day. Anyway, that concludes this induction ceremony of the WCWP Hall of Fame. I invite all of you to come over to the radio station and take a look at the new digs. I hope we make you proud with our new digs, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Enjoy it. It looks beautiful out there. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, too. Thank you for coming.
Group pictures over at the station?
Yeah, sure.
Dan, what do you think about that? Doing group pictures over at the new station?
Can we do group pictures here with the plaques?
Well, why don't we all go?
Just do them here.
All right.
Actually, I was fixing stuff at...
I remember Larry.
The first person I met was going out. You were graduating in 78.
Well, I didn't graduate. I transferred out. Yeah. Big. So anyway, you know all my brother.
Yeah, I was fixing stuff, I think it was in St. John's.
Other funny story. He went on a roll.
New York Nets.
New York Nets. ABA. Send them on the road. He was trained. This was the side exit.
Right.
So actually,
And there was that window right there.
that window's still there.
Yep.
And these studios have been totally, rebuilt from
This was all done.
So there's 3 of these,
3 of these, huh?
right? That's 1, 2, and 3. So there's no big, big classroom or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Studio A. It's
Really? Well, is this
Yeah, on the road,
Studio A?
really sound efficient, finally.
Yeah.
So the transmitter's here. This was where the secretary's booth was. And on my day it was Mrs. Gaffney.
Yeah, this
She's
is
still
Gaffney.
there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this was where she was, because this was the front door. So you come in the front door.
Come in the front door, turn
and
right,
there's
and Mrs. G, and then right behind her was
Right.
Moser.
And that office is still there. In fact, when you're in this part of the building, we'll just come back here briefly. When you're in this part of the building, you feel like, to me, I feel like this is the old place I remember,
Right.
because the lounge is back here.
Right.
Bathrooms are still in the same place. You got
Yep.
the bathroom there, there's still the one back here. And the kitchen area and the whole thing. I mean,
Right.
that's cleaned up a bit now, but
Yeah.
same, you know what I mean? Same setup. So when you're standing here, you feel like, okay, yeah, this is the old home.
Right.
But when you're up that part of the building, or when we're gonna go into a studio, it really, then you feel like, well, this is different. I don't know where I am yet. I'm not comfortable. I've only been here once. This is only my second. That's the online.
That's the online.
That's the wave. That's the internet only.
Okay.
And 88.1 FM is still, I think they changed the name to The Coast. I don't know why that is. I don't think Dan likes that. I don't think it's going to remain that. Too much longer. I don't like the name. And years ago, Bill Moser complained to me that our signal was strongest over Long Island Sound, and he said only the fish can really hear you. And then it would skip, and then here's Westchester, maybe Southern Connecticut.
I could hear it in Westchester.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, at nighttime.
But he would signal over the sound is great. Only the fish hear us. So calling the station the sound kind of brings back a bad connotation to me. I don't know, I'm old. But
The weather is, and he played the Moonlight Singer. Wow. I think that's cool.
whoa.
Oh.
Whoa.
Actually, and became water damage or vermin.
We'll have to ask. This is a production studio. The other 3 studios are,
Air
on-air
studios.
air studios.
Yeah.
This is it's for production.
Right. It's a nice little handy room.
What happened? We don't know.
I don't know. I have to ask.
Well, wait till Hernandez gets in.
Oh, boy.
He wasn't the guy who dropped the board, was it? What was that guy?
Now, that was Tim Ernandes.
No.
Tim-
Something.
Not Tim. Tom.
Tom Arsenal.
He's the one who
Oh,
dropped
wait,
the board.
forget. Is this supposed to be like this, Dan?
We're having a problem with a portion of, believe it or not, the roof, which had not leaked in 60 years, all of a sudden.
Both of you.
Okay.
Did you guys do this?
We had rain
It
the
is
other day.
water. Okay.
Did you sneak in here before the event?
Did you guys do this?
Yeah, somebody did this.
Accusing you of.
Was that, you all right? Okay.
Yeah, listen, if I was going to blame anybody, it'd be Hernandez, all right?
That's exactly right.
Did you make this mess?
No, we actually.
No, we used to shoot things into the ceiling.
Right?
There would be a lot of, we should.
And I told you to stay off my lawn.
Find a back would
We
just
used
be
pencils
wrong.
at the time, so we're graduating to pens now?
Well, it's like the 21st century, you know?
I understand.
I'm
Technology
sure,
marches
I'm sure
on.
before then they used quills. They would stick the feathers up there.
And before that, a stone tablet and a chisel. It was hard to get him to stay up there.
To get them to flip up there too. Holy moly! You had to really work out.
And this is Studio 3. I'm actually going to talk in this video.
11 years ago, I convinced him to spend $150,000.
In here with Dan Regan.
Nice and roomy.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yes. This is really nice.
Yeah.
Students don't know how lucky they are. I hope they do.
No.
I hope
Well,
they do.
yeah. I would hope that Pete told them and that Dan will tell them now. The lights just went out. Yeah. Say, guess we were stationary, so it just decided to shut off.
Over-commercialized public station.
Wow.
Who touched my car?
Is there anything that you see familiar in here? No, I understand.
No, this concrete block right here.
That was
That one I remember.
This is Ann Gaffney's office.
Yep.
That's right.
You know, and so this obviously wasn't moved.
No.
No, and that door led to
Moses' office.
It's the same door,
Right.
in effect. And now it's still the manager's office, so that would be now Dan's office.
Wow. Wasn't this production, was it? Yeah, that
Production was on the other side of Studio A.
This side.
Yeah, this back area was that
little
crazy studio, which
Yeah.
eventually got fixed up. Now, you haven't been here in years, right? It became a real working studio.
Last time I was here
It was called Studio
2001.
Oh, okay. I don't think it was done then. Dan hadn't even started running the place yet.
Where is everybody? Is everybody spread out? You need any explanation here? Yeah. Do you still go in here if you wanted to switch studios from here? No, set of switches on. the board switches it, and Zeta switches with you. So Zeta follows the board.
I'm sitting in 3, but 2's on the air, and I can take.
We have a real automation system.
Back to Studio 3.
You tell the board you want to be on FM. You switch the profile to FM,
Oh, you don't have to go in the transmitter?
and these 4
Yes, sir.
come up. Oh, the Zeta's not on, but so these 4 come up. Zeta from RCS.
Don't know that one.
You don't.
Is that
Whoa.
a half a board, Dan? I'm sure there's a larger, right?
What?
You must put the boards together. Right?
No,
This is not the
this is
whole
it.
board.
This is all you need.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
because
a
most of
great-
it's in a computer.
I'm a great believer in simplicity, clean style.
Is
and
that why
lights.
you like me and Mike?
No, I like Mike, Tim. I'm trying to impress you. I like Mike.
Sorry, I thought I'd try
No,
to
the
sneak
lights are on
that
a
in.
timer, and sometimes if you don't.
Oh, that's what happens.
Okay, so yeah.
Because I was in here
So-
before with Dan.
Here's the on-air
Dan
module,
Regan.
which is not running because we're currently not on Zeta. But what happens is you come to do a show, you put it on FM, and all of these come up. And this fader here is going to be the feed. All right, so you bring that up. You wait till you get to the top of the hour when your show starts. The legal ID comes on. You turn this one off. You have your show loaded in here. You turn this one off. You hit that one, and boom, you're off to the races. Zeta picks the. Usually it'll follow 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 1 to 2, but it'll pick whatever fader's open. Whatever you do. You get to pick from the lot. Is that my car again?
Yes. Yeah.
What the hell's going on?
The car note is not supposed to be parked there.
Yeah, fuck that. So.
I did it, Dan. It was
You also have some quick keys, which you guys all know.
Wow. Yeah. No.
Which you can make, and then you have the library. So if I wanted, I don't know.
Does that replace what used to be the wave card?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wave
When I
card.
say replace, I mean,
Yes, there it is. That's Stairway to Heaven. And by one.
Do you know what version?
Well, there's a version by the OJs there. There's 2
But
of
can
them.
you tell us not a live one or anything? Or
Only if it's put into the titles. But you could look it up.
So the music is in this program now?
Oh yeah.
I use
This
a
is how you play it?
system called
Where does
Simeon.
all this?
What is it?
Simeon.
Simeon. Yes. That's
Broadcast Software
made by
International.
yes. And BSI.
Yeah.
We used WaveCard for years from BSI. Yeah, they all hated it. I hated it, but
Well, I like
it worked.
Simeon.
No, Simeon. I actually downloaded Simeon to try it like 10 years ago because there's no way we're going to be able to afford this unless I got a big donation.
Right.
And I liked it. It actually integrated pretty well with WaveCard too, which we already had. But it's just.
What is this called?
This is called Zeta.
Zeta?
Zeta. It's made by a company called RCS. We also have a program called G Selector.
When you're down the hall, okay.
And G Selector is basically your programming.
I got the director's
You set up your hours,
and
set up your rotations, things like that for your automation.
I use natural log and natural music.
and you can log into that from home.
Do you have to use a third party for the music, like Music Master or something like that, to kind of log it?
No, natural music will integrate a music. You can program it, tell it how you want your hours to run, and give it a library and
Tell it to go
categorize your song, and then you tell it this is how I want it to work, and then it does.
Give you priorities to
Two
whatever.
mouse clicks and you got a
Yeah,
log.
and you're
for the
in.
next
Yeah,
day.
this basically does the same thing. G Select.
And in the middle of the show, I went to the men's room.
So that room you saw with the poor ceiling that fell in, that's where we do most of the programming. We sit in there and do G Select and other.
So any of these studios could be like a live studio then?
Because right now, let's say, I know. Let's say my show's over and I go back to automation. Okay? And the next person comes in, they're going to be on the web station, the Wave. They hit the other profile. Now the Wave is going to be on.
So we can just come into any studio?
Any studio,
Oh, that's
anything you want. The beauty of this software, the beauty of the way this system works is, in the old days, you had to designate a studio to play out your stuff. Everything here is played out from the server. Everything's played out by the server. So your studios become production studios when you're not going to use them for live air. So you don't have to designate a studio to sit there with a pot open, with a fader open all the time to run your automation.
Can multiple studios be on the air at the same time for like for example the Wave and this thing?
Of course. And I can have the third studio. I can have the third station set up, and I just dial in the third studio and bring in a newscast.
Where does all of the music lives on there?
Remember the old music library?
Sure.
There are more songs in that hard drive than ever in that library.
And all set up alphabetically by
Up to 2 by 4.
artist?
Yeah, artists, or
You can search anywhere.
it's a database. I put in Stairway. I got Stairway to Heaven. I didn't put in Led Zeppelin.
No,
So,
but-
while I have you all in one room, or most of you in one room, while my car beeps away, I am extraordinarily proud of this place.
You should be.
Last week at the ribbon cutting, none of you were there.
Who was invited?
Just the family. I'm sorry, the family who the family who dropped $500,000. They kind of had control of it. And I was asked to speak, and it was very difficult for me because this is a dream. And very rarely, I told the Abrams sisters who gave us the money, I said, very rarely in a man's life does he have a dream that comes true.
Right.
We have lots of dreams.
Right.
Very rarely they come true. I have kids, I have grandkids. Those dreams, those are the easy ones. But this was difficult. And everything you see, and I'm going to pat myself on the back until my arm breaks, every single thing you see is my design. Everything you see is me. So that's my legacy. This is how I leave this place.
All right, now get out.
I was trying, but they pulled me back in.
That's what I thought I was out. Right.
I think John Zoney sent me that clip.
He did.
He pulled me back in.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
It's a design function that I worked on with the university because these are the colors, these are the flooring. The colors are picked by the president. You're going to see a lot of this. The Hillwood Commons is now being renovated on the inside, getting rid of all that ugly. It's all going to be bright colors, smooth walls, none of that brick anymore.
Wow.
And I'm looking forward to. I stood out here for the ribbon cutting, and I've stood out here with LIU administration, and I always kind of point them in the direction of the loading dock and the Hillwood Commons, the ugliest building on campus. It is a disgustingly ugly building.
I have no idea.
Okay, it doesn't fit. The problem is in the mid-'70s they were throwing money away to put on these cookie cutter things.
Yeah.
And this is how I got them. I said, every SUNY campus has this architecture. That's when they lose their shit. So the plan is, now we didn't have enough money to do it, but when you see the lawn, the new lawn out there, which does have sprinklers and will be beautiful, the driveway everybody hates, including me, even though I parked there. The loading dock everybody hates because you look out that window and you see this beautiful grass and this ugly loading dock, and you see this really ugly building. So the plan is to build a plaza. This is another event where I'm hoping the third sister will finance this. To have a brick plaza that extends all the way over to Hillwood Commons, and I'd like to name it after them if I can. A brick plaza that goes all the way over there. We eliminate the loading dock, which they want to do. And they hope they'll get somebody to help them. They're going to veneer the entire building in brick to look like the rest of the campus.
Nice.
The building. This is all colonial architecture, right?
It's all just it's what you expect a suburban big college campus to look like. If you look at the new veterinary building, it's gorgeous.
Wow.
It really matches everything that's here. But but like this building, the technology inside is state of the art. And we also have, if you remember the art building down in the South Campus?
Yes.
It's been converted into the...
Homeless shelter.
No, we thought about that. But right across the street is where the president lives. She didn't want them around. No, what they did is Tweed Roosevelt, grandson of Theodore Roosevelt. He runs the Presidential Society that's now based here. A lot of Roosevelt's papers are going to be here. But if you go to that building, and they have a lot of schools go there, they have an Oval Office, a completely to scale Oval Office, and they do tours with kids. So the university is going a lot of different directions. Most of it's great. Most of it's just fucking great.
It sounds like, because I know myself and Neil were on 2 years ago at this time, this was like very tenuous that this radio station was even going to continue, right? Now sounds like we've done a 180.
Oh yeah.
And things are really moving in the direction that we all had hoped they would.
I said at a meeting 2 years. He retired May 31st, 2022.
I remember that.
Now we're May, June 1st, 2024. So it's 2 years.
A 2-year sabbatical.
I was here every day.
Yes,
I was here. Everything you see, I installed in this room.
Remember the old show, Dallas? Yeah, that was our dream sequence.
Yeah. Good morning.
Last 2 years it was only a dream.
Who shot JR?
Yeah, now we're back.
One of the things
Bobby Ewing in the shower.
One of the things I really appreciate about the construction is that we're all standing in this room, we're talking. But if someone were in that room, they wouldn't hear us.
Yeah.
That was never the case.
These walls, if you see what the thickness on these walls now.
Oh, yeah, double,
All right.
and double pane windows.
More important, because remember, this had 20-foot ceilings. There is an entire acoustic ceiling above this one. You've got sheetrock, plywood, and so none of the sound now leaks from studio to studio.
Is there storage?
I could take Mike Maimone in Studio 2 and kill him. And no one will hear you scream. Just like I was wondering.
Is there an attic above that as well? Storage and stuff?
No, there's no storage anymore. That's why I had to have that room built back there.
Okay.
No, everything's filled with the venting, lots of systems. Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you for coming. Everybody. I
Excellent.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Congratulations, Joel.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Dino. Book
I
'em.
just want to tell you, you got my favorite microphone.
You like them?
Love
It's funny, we had RE20s for the longest time, and I still have a million of them.
Yeah.
My old production director, who got laid off because of COVID, he asked me to buy one of them for him. I put it in his room, and everything sounded so beautiful coming out of there. And when we did the renovation, I said, no, let's get the H for
Great to
everybody.
see you.
We had this
Congratulations.
Well, thanks very much.
That's all I had. The only thing I found was tweaking the input levels. That was the only thing I had a problem with. I think it's just because of the
When
room.
people trying to host shows, and they're leaning away from it. It doesn't work. Yeah, you could, but it's supposed to be longer.
I had a guest down here, do that lean back in the chair, sound like they had it.
On the front, yeah.
I thought so.
Studio One.
I probably do.
This is not the new arm.
No, that's not the new one.
Oh, really? Have you been to the
I'm just
Alumni Hall
boggling
of
this just
Fame?
one screen.
Yeah.
I went early.
So we're standing in what used to be that big studio.
Thank you.
Refused to ever go back until
Hey, where's the picture
and now that
of
Chicago's finally in.
Ben Abrams?
I'll go
Okay,
back.
there's a story behind it. I hated that
Classic
painting.
rock songs.
I thought that painting was awful.
I remember
You know who else
seeing
hates
that.
that? You know who else hates that painting? The Abrams family. Marjorie told me she didn't care what I did with it because it was hanging in the lobby. This is back about 5-6 years ago. I have very good friends who are professional photographers. I said, come in, take pictures of it, please, because I have to have it processed. I still have it, beautiful pictures. And then the woman who ran the museum, I called her. I said, what do I do with a giant oil painting that I want to get rid of, but can't throw out? She was having a bunch of stuff moved. She had these professionals come over. They wrapped it. They put it in a crate, and it's sitting in a temperature-controlled vault over in the basement of the library. So it's not gone, but the family hated it.
The legend lives
The
on.
family hated it. I can send you a copy of the JPEG if you
No,
like.
I was going to make a fish tank out of it.
It's funny you mention that. Because I wanted to do that, because it went through to the other room.
Yeah, I know. It's like you could just take
All you
that
do is
off,
take- when they
just
took it off-
seal it, and
During the
just fill it with
demolition,
water.
they took that down, and I said, I was standing there with one of the project managers. Wouldn't a fish tank look really good right there? Yeah, too bad we're taking the whole wall down. Yeah, but wouldn't a fish tank look really good right? Because I had a fish. My first 4 years I was here, I had a fish tank in the lobby. All right.
Great to see you again.
Thank you, Dan.
Welcome to our little club. By the way, I didn't give the stat.
Thanks, everybody.
She's now 63 years old.